From atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West, you are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
All right. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live on your radio. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use, no doubt, continues now. This is the broadcast for July the 16th. In the year of our Lord 2025, this is Hour 2 of 2. Promoting God, family, country, protecting life, liberty, and property, doing so in the traditions of our founders, using the incredible checks and balances brilliantly put in place by the founding fathers as our guide, rejecting revolution unless it's Jesus revolution, then we're in because we follow the Prince of Peace. Knowing that it's National Hot Dog Day today, Americans eat approximately 7 billion hot dogs in the hot dog season. They say that's what, Memorial Day to Labor Day? Yes, indeed. According to the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council, the period from Memorial Day to Labor Day is prime hot dog season. $1.6 billion of hot dogs are sold during this time frame. Woo, baby. Wow. All right, J.D. Vance, VP, cast the tie-breaking vote, 51-50. By the way, 51-50 is like a call for crazy, isn't it? Isn't that right, Liz? You say 10-9, what's that? It's like CB radio talk or whatever. I think 51-50 is what the cops call crazy. We got a 51-50 over here. That means we got a crazy person. Is that right? You want to look that up, Liz, and see if that's true? I'm pretty sure that's right. Anyway, there you have that. President Trump introduced what he calls a interactive map detailing the financial benefits for each state under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Yeah. They say with the ability to provide significant tax relief and wage increases for Americans. That state-by-state map ought to be pretty cool, huh? Anyway, there you have that. Trump, as you heard at the top of the hour news, has called for the prosecution of one Adam Schiff, senator of California, for alleged mortgage fraud. Trump accused Schiff of falsely claiming that a Maryland home was his primary residence to share a mortgage, despite that he's from California. Yeah, I guess he's been claiming the Maryland property and his Burbank condo as primary residences since 2023 and was doing so ever since. I guess even when he refinanced in 2009, he made the same false claim. It wasn't corrected until October 2020. Meanwhile, Schiff also received a homeowner's tax exemption for the Burbank condo for several years. Now, I find this an interesting discussion because I don't believe Adam Schiff will be prosecuted for this. And frankly, I don't like Trump doing this. I'm not a fan of Schiff at all. I think the guy's a nutcase, personally. I think he's very extreme left, liberal, okay? So there's a lot not to like about him. That's my personal preference. And I don't mean to be rude and offensive in my language. I just disagree with him on a lot, politically speaking, and I believe a lot of what he does is designed for show. It's a lot of like what AOC does. I don't really like their antics. They do things to get popular, and they do things that I don't believe are good for the country. I don't believe they honor their role or responsibility as a senator or a congresswoman or man. Okay, so that's my problem with them, but I digress. The reason that I say I don't really like this is because you got to ask yourself some questions if you are a congressman or a senator in America today. You are frequently required to bounce back and forth between your home and Washington. And you may have a house in Washington, D.C., you may have it in Virginia, you may have it in Maryland. As you know, if you've gone to D.C. before, there's a lot of places that people, when they say they live in D.C., oftentimes they don't really literally live in D.C., but they live in Virginia or Maryland or whatever, right? And if you go back and forth so often between those places, then it's debatable what your primary residence really is. And is it right for you to claim something's your primary residence? Well, there's rules about primary residence. I get it. And a lot of times the rules relate to citizenship and or residency in a given location. So let's just say Utah. Hey, you got to live at least 6 months in Utah to claim to be a Utah resident, for instance. I'm not perfect on the law. I'm just kind of making a point here. So don't hold me to if it's like, oh, Sam, it's really 283 days in this place or that or what. I don't know. I'm just making the general point that usually you have to declare resident. But what if you're a congressman? And what if you spend a lot of your time in D.C. or Virginia or Maryland or whatever, and you spend a lot of time at home? And what if you don't meet the exact day requirements of what residency is or whatever the mortgage rules from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and all that are to, claim that this is your home or that? Are they really both your primary residence? And I would say in most cases, the answer for a congressman or a senator might be, for the most part, yes. Literally, my hometown of where I'm elected is certainly my primary residence, but I'm in D.C. or around there so much it becomes my primary residence. What's my primary residence if I live somewhere a little bit more, but yet me and my wife's name's on a mortgage and my wife's in this location and I'm in that location, and what is my primary residence? So I know the rules are designed by the mortgage companies, and I know a lot about this because I used to be a mortgage broker, right? So my background helps here a little bit, I think. But my point is, it's hard for me to know what your residence is. Now, the reason that they did the primary residence discussion is because interest rates are more expensive for a secondary or a vacation home. And you say, well, why, Sam? Because the risk reward analysis that a mortgage broker or bank does is based on that. If I have a primary home and a secondary home or a rental property or whatever term you want to use for it, and push comes to shove with my finances, I'm going to be a lot more likely to let go of the secondary home, of the vacation property, of the property that I don't spend most of my time at because it's the easiest to let go, right? So there's a risk reward that says, hey, I'm going to charge a little bit more interest rate, a little bit more risk. Therefore, the borrowing costs are higher for that second home. And so that's the reason that they even determine a primary home versus a secondary home or a vacation home or a rental property or a whatever your second, third, fourth, whatever mortgages are, because they realize it's also by law harder to take somebody's home. Let's say you declare bankruptcy or you do this or that. It's a lot easier to take a secondary home or, force the secondary home to be sold than it is somebody's primary residence. The idea is, hey, everybody at least needs a roof over their head, right? There's at least some room for that. Okay, well, all these rules were set logically, but when you're a congressman or a senator or somebody like that in that kind of a situation, and you're in a public servant kind of a role, the circumstances are different. It's kind of like if you're in the military. Hey, is my primary residence in Iraq? No, your primary residence is where your wife lives and where you get your mail or where your house address is, right? Yeah, but I'm overseas and I haven't been there well, there's got to be cases and exceptions for these things. Anyway, my whole point is I don't believe Adam Schiff to be a good, honorable person by any stretch of the imagination. But I will say, hey, how much of this is flat out fraud versus how much of this is saying the rules normally apply and should apply, but in my case, because of my circumstances, the rules weren't built for my situation, really. And they unfair penalize me. If I have two houses, it unfairly penalizes me when, I need both my homes. What you really need to do, though, and this is the problem, is say that your Maryland house is your secondary home. But then the interest rates are more. And they are because, hey, if push comes to shove and you lose your job as a congressman or a senator, then you're likely to keep your home wherever you're from and let go of that home. So the rules still do apply. So I think it's fraud, and I think it's a problem. And I'm not defending Schiff, but I am honestly admitting that I do see that there's a little bit of a difference here. And I do see how does it. So I would not go as far by any stretch of the imagination to call it fraud. I would say you played fast and loose with the rules, and there should be accountability. You need to pay a penalty, and you need to then have an interest rate that relates to what a proper secondary interest rate should be. You should be forced to refinance into a true mortgage, not one based on your bending of the rules. Do I think it rises to the level of fraud? I'm not ready to go there. Fraud's a really high bar. Was his intent to really defraud everybody? Or was it his intent to say, the rules don't really fit my circumstance? You know, I'm forced to be here a certain amount of time. Well, do you rent? Do you buy something? What do you do? You know, tough decisions. I wouldn't call it fraud. I'd say it's dishonest and it needs to be corrected, though. Hang tight.
Do you treasure your liberty? Well, at lovingliberty.net, we most certainly do. And we want to help protect your liberty too. Become part of the family. Everyone knows that the core of any society is the family. Therefore, the government should foster and protect the integrity of its family, we the people. Won't you join us as a Loving Liberty sponsor to help us promote the principles in the 5,000-year leap? Let's restore the miracle that changed the world at lovingliberty.net.
As you are aware, America is divided over every fault line possible. This is intentionally fostered by those who do not love God, family, or country. We believe a peaceful future as a free people absolutely depends on civility. Clarion Call for Civility is looking for funding and volunteers at every level to make our hopes and efforts a reality. Please donate, sign our pledge, and help us in our sacred cause. Please visit callforcivility.com for more details. Callforcivility.com.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The Foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education, conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing Foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various Foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen, Sam Bushman. So I don't really think it's fair for Trump to call the prosecution of Senator Adam Schiff to be fraud. I could say it's certainly not smart for him to do so, but it really depends on how much Schiff knew. It really depends on, what his mortgage brokers told him, about the primary residence. Was that explained to him properly? Fraud is knowingly and intentionally, flaunting the law or whatever, I don't know that Schiff really understands all this. It's kind of mortgage speak or whatever. Hey, why is there primary residence and a secondary residence, and where are you going to live? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to live at this place a lot, So I don't know that it's fraud. I do think it needs to be corrected, but I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill. There's so many other problems in America. Why are we focusing on Schiff? Because he's a Democrat and Donald's a Republican. That's why. And see, I think we really need to jettison that narrative. The party becomes all-consuming. I look at this, big, beautiful bill to save money, supposedly, but it spends us into oblivion. Hey, that was very partisan in nature. I look at this new big savings bill, the Doge, whatever. It was very partisan in nature as well. And so I think the partisan nature of things is a problem. And that's going to come down to the education discussion as well. Headline says the Supreme Court allowed Donald Trump to fire nearly 1,400 employees from the Department of Education. U.S. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon is for it. Emphasized the president's authority over the federal agency and its operations. I agree with that, but 3 judges voted against it. Justice Elena Kagan, Sonia Sotomayor and Brown Jackson voted against it. Sotomayor going so far as to call what she said executive lawlessness. I wouldn't go that far either. Again, President Trump is trying to save money. Where constitutionally does the federal government have authority over education in the first place? The answer is nowhere. So I really appreciate Trump shutting that down. And shame on the justices for speaking out, saying that it's lawlessness. It is not executive lawlessness to reduce the spending of the general government when we're in debt up to our eyeballs. And when there's no authority, in my opinion, constitutionally over education in the first place. So the real question becomes, how much will Donald Trump really shut down the education department? And my response to that question is only time will tell. I've been frustrated because it's taking so long to get things done. But in their defense, there's a lot of things to accomplish. And they're off to a good start. McMahon says she wants to shut down the department. Donald Trump doing his best to shut down the department. But we're really going to need congressional action here if we want to see it all the way through. And so I really want to talk to the House and the Senate and say, come on, folks, let's codify Donald's efforts into reality. Donald Trump a lot of times does a lot of good, but he's even opposed by the same people in his own party, sadly. And it's very difficult for him to accomplish what many of the goals are. There are even goals that Republicans have said they back. They've been at this for decades, saying they'll abolish the education department. This is just Donald Trump trying to carry through on a Republican-made promise over and over and over and over for decades. So I pray the Republicans support President Trump in his quest. All right. This is great news, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to throw out a big congratulations to this group. Headline says SRN launches Texas disaster relief effort. Who are we talking about? Salem Radio Network is partnering with international nonprofit agencies. They call it relief agencies. It's called Food for the Poor to rush emergency relief kits to flood-ravaged Texas. I think this is great news. I commend Salem Radio News for this. SRN talk hosts Mike Gallagher, Chris Stigall, Hugh Hewitt, and Larry Elder are all supporting this campaign on their radio programs. Well, I want to support it on my radio program as well. And I want to give a big old shout out to SRN because I think what they're really doing is important. And it just shows that we can do a lot of things in the private sector. Good companies can come to the table. SRN Vice President, News and Talk Programming, his name is Tom Tradup, great guy, by the way, says Food for the Poor has been involved in providing disaster relief for decades throughout our hemisphere, and we're going to be involved with them and trusted partners in San Antonio. They'll make sure there's a swift, professional response to the communities affected by the Central Texas flooding. I couldn't agree more. I just think this is tremendous, and I really point to them as an example. Hey, what if all the other networks did the same? What if the networks, not only radio, like Premier Radio Networks, Glenn Beck and Company. There's several other different radio networks that could, be part of that. But Salem providing the lead, and Salem's a Christian organization at its core, and good for them for it. So I really love to see the private sector stepping up and making a difference here and saying, hey, we can do something. Let's use our organization, use our assets to really do something meaningful. And so I commend the talk show hosts, Mike Gallagher, Chris Stigall, Hugh Hewitt, Larry Elder, supporting the program or supporting it on their programs. I just want to support them and say good job to all of you. Phenomenal job. And I really wish other networks would do that. Not only networks like radio people, but what about TV networks? What about Fox and those guys, radio and TV? Salem's got radio and TV. What about groups like X and Elon Musk? Like Instagram and Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, Truth Social, Donald Trump and company. I mean, what if those guys all got involved? And what if we made this a massive team effort? What if we drafted, not literally drafted, but brought in famous people? Like a Taylor Swift or who knows who, but big artists, big celebrities. And they were to partner with that as well and say, hey, let's raise money for the flood victims. Let's make sure that everything is kosher for them. Anyway, I say it's really good news. And I don't think it's a partisan thing. I think we could not have party involved in this. We could all just stand together. Say, let's care for the flood victims. They need our support. We should have done that with a lot of the hurricanes back in the day here recently as well. I know the people of the Southeast are really suffering. Even still to today, they're suffering. And our prayers go out to them. I know there's supposed to be fires in the Grand Canyon. Maybe some relief for those people. I know there's supposed to be flooding in Florida. There's supposed to be big rain coming. I pray that's not a big problem, but that could be an issue. We need to reach out in kindness, random acts of kindness and Christian efforts all over the country. And I really applaud Salem Radio Networks as a private group to do something about this. Anyway, great stuff. All right. There's a big battle going on with the Epstein files, and I kind of wanted to leave this, not even really report on it, but it's just so prevalent, we got to report on it. Political analysts Mark Halperin, Sean Spicer, Dan Turrentine discussed potential repercussions for Democrats as they keep pushing for the release of the materials regarding the Jeffrey Epstein files. Wow. All right. Now, on the morning meeting, that's the, I guess, talk show they were on, they suggested that releasing information could embarrass the Democrats, as many of Epstein's known associates are from this party. This topic arose after Democrats literally forced a bill to compel Attorney General Pam Bondi to disclose records on Epstein's investigation, or on the Epstein investigation and the incarceration, which was blocked by House Republicans. Did you hear me? Yeah, Halperin mentioned a source stating that most prominent figures connected to Epstein, other than President Donald Trump, are Democrats. Turrentine emphasized the bipartisan nature of Epstein's association, but acknowledged a serious Democratic link. Spicer remarked on the political risks for Democrats, suggesting they believe that the release of the documents may never really occur. That's why they're willing to push for it. I agree with that. Think about that. What do we got here? We got the Democrats pushing to release the Epstein files. The Democrats literally tried to force a vote making Bondi release this information. But Republicans shut it down. Yeah. This is very, very weird. Yeah. House Republicans blocked a Democratic effort to vote on the amendment compelling the release of government files related to Jeffrey Epstein. So all these Republicans are supposedly for it, but they're the ones that shut it down. The Democrats pushed for it and tried to get it passed. Republicans backing Trump and shutting it down. MAGA tearing apart at the very center, ladies and gentlemen. It's like in Superman, how the rift is coming towards the people and going to destroy them. That's what's happening here, I'll tell you that. Hang tight, Liberty Roundtable Live. I'm Sam Bushman.
Exposing corruption, informing citizens, pursuing liberty. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Jason Walker. Wholesale inflation pressure solidly under control. U.S. producer prices unchanged. Labor Department says its producer price index unchanged in June from May and up 2.3% from a year earlier. Senate has advanced a request from the White House to claw back billions in funds for international aid and public broadcasting.
The request, known as a rescissions package, cleared its first procedural hurdles late Tuesday with the help of Vice President J.D. Vance. The Vice President cast 2 tie-breaking votes after 3 Republicans joined all Democrats in opposing it. Earlier Tuesday, Senate Majority Leader John Thune appeared uncertain if he had the votes to advance it, but moved ahead with a pair of procedural votes later in the day. Republican Senator Susan Collins of Maine, Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska voted against moving forward. Bernie Bennett, Washington.
Also at townhall.com, despite President Trump's 50-day ultimatum for Moscow to end its war in Ukraine, new Russian drone strikes hitting at least 4 cities in the central part of Ukraine, wounding more than 15 people.
Vinnytsia is one of 4 Ukrainian cities pounded Tuesday into Wednesday morning. 400 Shahed and decoy drones launched, as well as 1 ballistic missile, the Ukrainian Air Force says. At least 15 people have been injured in the strikes in all that mostly targeted energy infrastructure. The latest bombardment in Russia's escalating aerial campaign comes ahead of a September 2 deadline set by President Donald Trump for the Kremlin to reach a peace deal in the 3-year war under the threat of possible severe Washington sanctions if it doesn't. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Israeli military launching a rare airstrike in the heart of Damascus early today, hitting a Syrian Defense Ministry building as clashes in the region continue to flare up. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hey everybody, Charlie Kirk here. As executive director of Turning Point USA, a national radio host, podcaster, husband, and father of 2, my schedule is about as crazy as it can possibly get. 2 years ago, I made the decision to take control of my health, and I chose PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition because I needed a plan that fit my hectic lifestyle. I travel a lot and my schedule changes every week, so I need something simple. They customized a plan for my body and my schedule, and I quickly lost 30 pounds. Now I have the energy and focus to get through my busy day. PhD will help you too. They won't let you fail. Just give them a call, schedule your weight loss consultation, and see if their program is right for you. Call 855-696-2020. That's 855-696-2020. The first 11 callers who mention the word healthy will get 2 weeks added to their weight loss package. Call 855-696-2020 and mention the word healthy, or visit them at myphdweightloss.com. That is myphdweightloss.com. It worked for me, and it can work for you. myphdweightloss.com.
Hi, I'm Dave. I'm 7 years old. I'm sitting here in the corner having a time out until Mom comes to talk to me. All I did was cut my sister's hair. I was just trying to help. I guess Mom didn't like how I did it. In a minute, she'll be back and ask me if I know what I did was wrong. Maybe I shouldn't have cut her hair. And she'll say we all make mistakes because we're just learning about stuff. And she'll give me a hug and we'll end up talking about more stuff.
No matter what you talk to your kids about, love is what they'll hear.
I really like Mom's timeouts, and I think she likes them too. Yeah, I think they help her remember how much she loves me.
A thought from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Visit us at Mormon.org.
Bypass the mainstream narrative with Liberty News Radio at libertynewsradio.com. Engage with charismatic hosts live or on demand. We cover the crucial news focused on God, family, and country. News that other networks simply refuse to use. Think of LNR's hard-hitting news and podcasts at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere. Join us at libertynewsradio.com. Empower your day with the truth, because the truth will set you free. libertynewsradio.com.
Introducing Managed IT Services from NPI. We offer top-notch data backup and recovery, email spam protection, and network security tailored to your needs and budget. With 20-plus years of experience in the medical field, our HIPAA-certified consultants know what it takes to protect sensitive information. Don't settle for less. Give us a call at 801-706-6980 and experience the difference with Managed IT Services. Remember, your IT support should be fast, efficient, and reliable.
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, this is getting away from us. Big time. House Republicans blocked a Democratic effort to vote on an amendment compelling the release of files related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. It's very interesting. The amendment was proposed by Democratic Rep. Ro Khanna, aimed to release records related to the Epstein case. It was attached to a crypto bill, is what I find interesting. This, again, is where it's just partisan politics, and they merge everything together to where you can't know what, people are voting for or against or why or everything else. Now, believe it or not, House Minority Leader Joaquin Jeffries has called on the Trump administration to release all files related to Jeffrey Epstein, emphasizing the need for transparency. Now, this is the interesting part, folks. Jeffries criticized the administration for previously claiming the existence of scandalous documents and the suicide discussion only to be contradicted by a report. Remember how I told you that whatever party's not in power tend to be truth tellers? Now you've got more Democrats supporting this release of the Epstein files than even MAGA, than even Republicans. Why? Because the party not in power becomes a truth teller. They're like, hey, this is wrong. Well, they're right. The Republicans now are blocking this. It's a disgrace, right? I don't know how to go about this except to say that I believe that the Democrats are right. Now, here's the other interesting thing. I don't get caught up, folks. I don't get caught up in picking sides, but I get caught up in principles. So Joaquin Jeffries indicated that congressional action might be necessary to uncover the truth if the administration fails to provide clarity. Now, I guess a couple of other representatives have tried to work on this too. They're both Democrats. Now, the problem is the Republicans voted against this, right? Well, I don't really understand why, but here's what the Republicans say their reasoning is. Listen up. Republican lawmakers opposed the vote, citing, quote, political motivations rather than child protection. Now, I agree that the Democrats are not in this for the right reasons, right? I agree. But here's my response. I don't care if the Republicans or the Democrats do the right thing for the wrong reasons. Why? Because based on principle, it's the right thing. Now, if they have different motivations, let them be accountable for those motivations. But opening the Epstein files as promised by Trump on the campaign trail and as president and by the administration, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, all of them, is the right thing to do. Now, I don't care if the Democrats are calling for it because they're not the party in power and they want to let it backfire against them. Let the truth come out. So House Republicans blocked the Democratic effort to see the Epstein files. And they say the reason we did is because the Democrats, well, it's political motivations. I don't care if it's political motivations, ladies and gentlemen. I don't give a rip about that. Joaquin Jeffries doing this. He says congressional action might be necessary to uncover the truth if the administration fails to provide clarity. Couldn't agree more. Right? I could not agree more. with Jeffries. Now, I know you say, well, Sam, when do you agree with Jeffries? I can't even think of a time. But when he's right based on principle, he might be doing it for the wrong reasons, right? There might be real repercussions for the Democrats in this, right? Now, Spicer remarked on the political risks for Democrats. They may have done it just because they believe they'll never be released, so that's why they're going to push for it. They can get a lot of brownie points, but it might backfire. Well, let's let it backfire. Let's back them when they push for it because it's the right thing to do. Right? Now, I guess there was one Republican, Ralph Norman of South Carolina, was the only one to be for it in committee, but voted against a floor vote. So on one hand, he's trying to get his cake and to eat it too. Yes, I'm for this. I want to go on record that I want accountability, but I'm going to vote against a floor vote, which means I'll never let it come to fruition. That's a Republican. And this is where you see the Republicans and the Democrats, they all do this. When they're in power, they vote more to the party than they do to the principle. Okay, and that's why I'm saying, hey, I think Spicer's right on this discussion about the Democrats. They're probably doing it for the wrong reasons. Who cares, right? Democratic Rep Jim McGovern criticized the Republican stance, suggesting it as a backtrack on transparency commitments. I have to agree with McGovern. Do you? Yeah, I think it is a backtrack on commitments. Right? I think it that's true. McGovern's right. See, and that's why I'm not interested in the debate. So let me give you an example of how all these people are kind of flip-flopping in what they say and what they do. House Speaker Mike Johnson is now calling on the Justice Department to release all files related to the Jeffrey Epstein scenario and has asked Attorney General Pam Bondi for clarification on the alleged comments regarding a client list. So now even Mike Johnson is calling for something to be done. During a recent interview with Denny Johnson, Mike Johnson emphasized the importance of transparency, but he blocked a vote. A House vote initiated by Democrats to have accountability and to compel the release of these files. Do you see the problem that I'm having? The problem I'm having is what on earth is Mike Johnson doing? On one hand, he says we got to have accountability. On the other hand, he blocks it. The Republicans and MAGA say we got to have accountability. That's what you promised. The Democrats are standing for it more than the Republicans. And what the Republicans say is we're against it because you're for it. Well, you're for it for the wrong reasons. Hey, there's political risk for the Democrats. They might be calling for it, but it can backfire on them. I agree, but why would you emphasize the importance of transparency and block it, Mike Johnson? Because this is what they do, and this is where I really have trouble trying to focus on my clarion call for civility efforts. On one hand, I just want to rip these people a new one. I just want to, it's insane. I get so frustrated and so tired of it. And I think the American people do too. It's not just me. And so oftentimes when we go off on rants, the American people love it because they see what we're saying. At the same time, I got to be polite. Mike Johnson, I don't know why you're not congruent here, sir. On one hand, you say there's an absolute need for transparency, but you block the Democrats when they want to vote yes to release the files. Why don't you support them? Why don't you let it backfire if that's what they're doing? If they're doing it because they think it won't go through and they can get brownie points out of it, kind of like the Republicans did with Obamacare. They said they were going to vote against it, get rid of it, get rid of it. They had every opportunity to. They voted like 40 times to get rid of it until they really had the votes and the ability to get rid of it, and then they didn't do it. Trump defended Pam Bondi's management of the situation, but now even Trump, listen carefully, now even Trump indicates openness to releasing more documents if, listen, deemed credible by Pam Bondi. So the claim is that, the Democrats tampered with the files. I don't disagree. I believe they did, I'm sure. No doubt about it. But that's no excuse. We don't need to release every file. What we need to do is start an investigation. And what we need to do is not take the bait. An investigation should bring out the facts. Let me tell you how I'd investigate this thing if it were me. Shall I do that? Because this is Solutions Radio, and I don't want to just complain and be the guy that complains about everybody. I'll tell you how I would do it if it were me. All right? Hang tight. We'll talk about it. This is Liberty Roundtable Live.
Cybercrime is exploding. Take Sarah from Sweet Delights, whose world crumbled after having to close with not being able to bounce back. Small businesses are prime targets, but the right strategies can keep yours safe. Jay Hill, CEO of Network Providers, has co-authored The Cyber Playbook Simplifies Cybersecurity for Business Owners with Strategies to avoid costly breaches and fines. Build a strong cyber attack response. Secure your business with key protections. Cyber threats aren't slowing down, but you can stay ahead. Protect your business. Ensure its security for tomorrow. Get the Cyber Playbook today at networkprovidersinc.com/cyber-playbook or call 385-446-5500 now.
Introducing PrepStartsNow.com, your ultimate guide to readiness and peace of mind. We offer practical preparedness tools, training, and education to take your family's household readiness to the next level. Browse the prep shop for essential products, check out our planning guides, and stay informed with our prep blog. Visit PrepStartsNow.com and subscribe to our emails for exclusive offers, new products, and future events. Remember, preparedness begins with PrepStartsNow.com.
Former Sheriff Richard Mack recounts in his book The Proper Role of Law Enforcement how he came to realize while working as a beat cop how wrong the all-too-common orientation of police officers is when they think of their job as being to write tickets and arrest people. Richard Mack tells of his personal transformation from by-the-number cop to Constitution-conscious defender of citizen safety and freedoms. Learn what it really means to serve and protect. Purchase your copy at cspoa.org. That's cspoa.org.
So Mike Johnson calling on the Justice Department to release all files relating to Epstein, saying we need accountability. But man, I don't know how to respond to Mike Johnson, because Mike Johnson emphasized the importance of transparency, but yet blocked the vote. Right? I don't know how to respond to that. I don't know what to say about it. I'm disappointed in Mike Johnson. I mean, on one hand, he calls on and wants to answer. Justice Department to release all files related to Jeffrey Epstein. But I don't know about this, asking the, Attorney General Pam Bondi about this issue, about clarification on the comments about a list, and now there's no list. And I mean, I appreciate what Jeffrey's saying, but I don't really find it to be genuine on Mike Johnson's part. How do you call on this, but yet you block the vote? Well, because the Democrats are doing it for the wrong reasons. Who cares? Let them do it for the wrong reasons. Right? Anyway, Trump deems Bondi to be trustworthy in this, and hey, even Trump's okay to release files now. But they're not going to release the files, ladies and gentlemen. This is true. The Democrats are the truth tellers on this right now. The MAGA folks that are truly for accountability and transparency are the truth tellers on this. Donald Trump and the Republicans are absolutely playing games. On one hand, they block it. On the other hand, they say they're for transparency. How can Mike Johnson say he's for transparency and let's get to the bottom of it and what gives here Pam Bondi, while at the same time he blocks these votes? Anyway, what a sad deal. And the sad deal is, in my mind, folks, that we're focusing on partisan politics instead of on what's good for America. What's good for America is to tell the truth. Okay, we need to be truth tellers. And I don't care which party's in power. Folks like me truth tell regardless. And so I told you before the pause I was going to focus on what I would do if it were me. I would literally come out and say this. You know what? The files have all been corrupted. And so, we don't have the ability to release the files like we thought. When I had all these files on my desk, I really thought that we could get to the bottom of these things. But honestly, we can't because they've been deleted, manipulated, tampered with. It's almost like a deep fake. And as a deep fake, we can't really release that because we don't know what the truth is. And we don't want to get innocent people in trouble. We really don't. And so what we're going to do is we're not going to release all the files we said we were. Right? Whose names have been cleared from the Epstein case? Right? That's what I would ask first. Whose names have been cleared from the Epstein case? Right? We've had all kinds of names revealed. We've heard of names like Bill Clinton. Okay? So whose names have been cleared? Most of them haven't been cleared. Right? We have all kinds of newly released. Go look it up on the internet. Newly released Epstein document list. Epstein list. Names unsealed in court. Bill Clinton. Prince Andrew. Glenn Dubin. Gene Luke. Many others. Right? But there's only one guy that I know that's been cleared. What's his name? He's that attorney, right? He speaks out all the time. I'm trying to think of his name. In Epstein case. I'm trying to look up this guy's name real quick. Anyway, I'll try to find his name. Anyway, there's one guy that's been cleared. And how he was cleared is in court. He said, hey, I want all the documents. Let's throw down and get the documents. And eventually the witness against him, the woman that got abused, basically said, hey, you know what? I might have the wrong guy here. I don't think this is the right guy. I must be confused. And she literally admitted to it. And I say good for him for standing up and good for her for that. Oh, it's Alan Dershowitz, I think is his name, right? Right? Wasn't he cleared? Yeah. Somebody just texted me, and I can't see the text because I'm too busy on the radio. But they're right. Whoever texted me, thank you. It's Alan Dershowitz. Okay, and he basically got cleared. And so my point is, why don't we do the same thing with Bill Clinton? His name's already out there. We don't care if it did damage to Bill or not. No one knows. But let's find out. Did Bill lie? Well, he absolutely lied when it came to Monica Lewinsky. He absolutely perjured himself in court with no accountability. Oh, he got impeached, but it meant nothing, right? And all you got to do is get a third-party investigator to look at this stuff. An independent, transparent investigator to look at this stuff, right? And all you got to do, folks, is have that group work through the names one at a time. And all you got to do is have that group easily tell you, hey, this is the name or the group of names we're looking at, and we're going to investigate. We don't need information from Congress if they deleted this or deep faked that or played games with whatever. We don't need any of that. All we need to do, folks, is have a investigation spearheaded. An independent, transparent investigation into the Epstein case. We need to take names as individuals. No class action stuff, but one at a time names. And the names can come from prior court cases. The names can come from Jeffrey Epstein's records. They can come from anything you want. Doesn't matter. Allegations people make. Let Ghislaine Maxwell talk before Congress. Let her throw our allegations out. Make a list. But all you got to do is go through the list and say, is there evidence on this or that individual And what is the evidence? And then if there's enough evidence, you look at it and say there's a probable cause because your name's in these lists. You've been, and then you say, all right, let's look and say, does the probable cause rise to the level? Does it warrant an investigation enough? Yes. Okay. Let's move forward. We can get Jeffrey Epstein's phone records. We can get that person's name's phone records subpoenaed. We can get emails. We can get documents. We can follow the money and follow the money trail. Hey, did this person pay Epstein money? What was the money for? They claim they gave him all kinds of money because he was an investment manager for them. But this guy was basically a dropout. He didn't have any investment management skills. And so it would be very easy to really run truth to fact by following the money and the communications trails between these people. They say, well, there's no more evidence. There's just child porn, gigabytes and gigabytes of it. Somebody sadly needs to kind of vet that and go through it and find out, is it just tons of child porn, or has no one really read it or looked at it all? It reminds me of the 42,000 hours of the January 6th thing. No one's ever been able to even look at all of it. Even though we were promised that by the Republicans, they lied. They gave a few people some placed information, released a few nuggets, and now I haven't seen anything since. It's a disgrace. Well, the same thing's true here. Let's put truth. Bill Clinton, take his name. Is he guilty? And if so, let's prosecute him to the full extent of the law. If he's not guilty, let's clear his name and say this third party, transparent investigative group full of maybe who knows who, right? Professional investigators, somebody that's above reproach. Even get Alan Dershowitz to sit on the committee. He knows where all the names and places and bodies are, and he can't release it because he's got a gag order about it or something due to the courts and everything else. Put him behind closed doors. Put him in a situation where he's allowed to speak freely. Let him help you connect the dots. He will. If he's innocent, like he is purported to be, then he'll help you. He'll be like, I want to help protect all the other innocent people too. And every person that's proven innocent can then provide more information. And if somebody's guilty of some minor sins, let's give them some kind of a pass, some kind of a protection to blow the whistle on the rest. Let's go after this deep state criminal organization. There's ways to accomplish this, people. And I've provided you a little bit of an insight into the way you get it done. Everybody else seems to be dismissing this, that I can see. Everybody else speaking for Trump wants this to go away. I think we, the people, need to never let it go away. I think we need accountability. I think there's a trafficking ring of pedophilia and all kinds of perversions and sex abuse. Where's the Me Too movement when you need them? But all I can tell you is this needs to be dealt with. Because if you don't get to the bottom of this one, can you trust government ever? I don't think so. And I'm really, Trump says he's disappointed in this or that person for whatever reason. I'm really disappointed in Trump and Bondi. I don't think Pam Bondi's doing this all on her own. Who's giving Trump and who's giving Bondi or whatever that they should do this? I'm disappointed in all of them. I agree with Joaquin Jeffries. He might be in it for the wrong reasons, but he indicated that congressional action might be needed if the administration fails to provide clarity. And I think since the government has proven themselves unwilling to get to the bottom of this stuff, absolutely unwilling to get to the bottom of this stuff, I think what we really need to do is have third-party investigators. Because when Mike Johnson says he wants full transparency, but he blocks the Democrats who are calling by legislation to have transparency, I don't believe we can have transparency. I don't have any trust when Mike Johnson does that or when the Republicans do that. So now that they've all failed us, I think it's up to us, we the people, to demand accountability, and we need to push for an independent, transparent investigation. Here's the names we're working on. We either have evidence or we don't, and write a report on each individual and get to the bottom of this thing. We can do it, people, but it's going to take the will of the American people. Do you have the stomach for it? It's the only question left. LovingLiberty.net. God save our republic. Let's stand tall, people.